All right. Hello, everybody. We are back in action, Good to see everybody. Thank you for sticking around. Thank you for being on. Happy to see everybody. So for our next segment, we got Mr. Joe Sparrow, the one and only, the legend himself, which hopefully some of you guys are familiar for. Maybe you've heard of him, maybe you haven't. I don't know. You decide, folks. And this format's going to be a little different for you guys. It's going to be an interview. I'll be interviewing Joe, post-COVID streams, income streams. So, but before, I guess, let Joe say any introductory phrases, and then I'll get started with the interview.
Okay, thanks, Marina. Thanks for having me, and hi, everyone. So I'm here today, not as in my BIMM guise. I'm here, as you can see, I'm branded in my Music Ally guise. So in case you don't know, a lot of the work I do is for Music Ally, which is a music business, news reporting, research, analysis, and sort of information business, which provides a lot of reporting to people across the music industry, from major labels and major streaming platforms all the way down to independent labels and DIY artists and managers and things like that. So we do a lot of research, and I do a lot of writing for them, and making podcasts and things like that. So I'm here to talk about new income streams for artists from that perspective.
Awesome. And I have to ask, did you intentionally match your sweater with your background? Because they're really like working together, but I couldn't tell that was intentional.
I'm completely on brand, if you look at that. That was an accident, I promise. It was not intentional.
It was not. I was gonna say that's iconic planning. That's like I really.
I know. You know how much I love branding, but no.
All about the branding.
No, all about the hashtag branding. Yeah.
Hashtag. All right. Cool. So let's get this interview started. And so you guys know we're talking about post income streams, post COVID. And I feel like a good way to start might sort of be a two-part kind of thing regarding maybe giving a very, very brief description on income streams now, sort of even pre-COVID, and then maybe talking about how has COVID cut short income streams for artists.
Well, the traditional income streams for artists have been quite clear for about the last 100 years. And that is, you get paid to perform music live, and I'm including in that sort of selling merchandise as well. And then you also get paid for selling recorded music in some way, whether that's at the moment via streaming platforms, selling vinyl, or also having your music put into TV shows or whatever. So the two income streams historically have been live performance and recorded music. And of course, the big change 12 months ago was that coronavirus took one half of that away. It took one of those two streams away, which was live performance. And so my argument is, what that shows is that the music industry is actually very precarious it was precarious in that it would take, a huge pandemic, but one thing could eradicate a large proportion of income for almost every single artist. And that's a problem, because it could happen again, and it doesn't make sense in the modern world to have a business, an income stream, which is very dependent on one of two things. So we'll dig into this later, but that's how it was. And I think that my other argument is that now is the best time to be an emerging artist, because you have so many more choices and ways of making money. I think we've got you on mute, actually, Marina. I don't know if I pressed something. It could have been me.
Oh no, that's my fault. Sorry, I just
okay. That's fine.
You was on. All right, so let me restart that. For sure, and that's like an interesting segue, I think, into this idea of sustainability, which is an interesting word of itself. You have different meanings, but kind of how that goes along with the music industry, and this idea that that certain live income stream, how sustainable was it?
Yeah. I mean, sustainability is a buzzword in the music industry, and of course it means about 100 different things. One common use of the word for sustainability is for it to mean environmental sustainability, but of course in this sense it's about sustainability in terms of your business being sustainable and robust, and being able to exist and ride out these problems. And the fact that I think we shouldn't be distracted from the fact that this has happened, this has been brought to our attention because of coronavirus. So this was sort of once in a generation, once in a lifetime event that has affected us all. But it's actually, it's something that we should have been talking about anyway. Because if you look at people's response to how coronavirus affected them, what they've done is they've simply embraced technologies and platforms that have existed for years. Live streaming is not a new technology. Fan clubs are not a new technology, but artists now are realizing that they have to move away from this duopoly of these two income streams and make it sort of a multi-threaded, if you like, with lots of different income streams. And my argument, or what I try and say to emerging artists now, or even big artists, is to diversify a bit and find new ways of making money around the central part of their business as the artist.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's really cool. And I think it's sort of like, it's in some ways, I think maybe a more optimistic way to look at COVID, because of many artists, of course, feeling it as, it's of course been very hurtful in a lot of ways, income streams other ways. Yeah. But of course, I think it's also making people think about new ways to innovate and new ways to organize income streams. So I feel like that's one kind of optimistic viewpoint of COVID.
Yeah, I think it is optimistic, and I think it's been a very, very difficult period. I've talked about artists so far, but of course it's been incredibly damaging for people who own venues, for people who work in venues, whether they're working at the bars or they're booking or they're sound engineers. I mean, it's been devastating. But these new technologies are not just for artists. If you think about it, a venue could still exist and run as a business at the moment in a certain way if it was equipped with really high quality live streaming equipment, because then artists still want to perform on live and be seen to be playing certain venues. We've seen this in the UK, particularly with artists wanting to play at a certain very famous venues and to live stream from them. So if those venues are equipped with technology, then they can bring all these people back who've not been able to work, and they can actually run events again and start making money. So all these things I'm talking about are not just artist focused, and it is positive. It is an opportunity for people to make, if you're interested to work in the music industry long term and want to make money long term, then you've got a way of building a career that is resilient long term as well.
Well, it's the longevity of it is very interesting now, and it's talking about like live streaming, because I think it's like not quite as pertinent now as it was maybe a few months ago when it was really new, but there's a lot of discussion about kind of how can these live streaming services like Twitch and what Instagram offers, how can they go about paying artists and making it a viable income stream, or making that kind of creating a business model for it, because that's not something that necessarily exists yet. I guess to see if there's interest in it, but definitely seems like that's one of a new thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the thing with live streaming is, of course, it's not new. I mean, I remember I was working on a nearly 10 years ago, which it gives you a clue of how old I am. I was working at South by Southwest on a big event there, and we booked all these bands, and this was 2012, I guess. And so we booked 60 bands or whatever, and every artist was being live streamed. And this was a kind of a newish thing then, but that was 10 years ago, And so live streaming itself as a concept is not new, but I think that artists weren't really bothered enough to do it in a sort of performance sense, and fans weren't really sold on the idea of sitting and watching live streams. And that's changed very, very quickly because of necessity, but I don't think that means it will go away again when things get back to normal. In terms of live streaming's longevity, we're going to see now, when, let's imagine not too far in the future, when shows can happen again and clubs open again and things like that, bands will start touring again, artists will start performing again, people will start buying tickets again to see them. It's inevitable. But I do think that live streaming is going to exist alongside that. And so what we're going to see now is two different types of live stream. We're going to see of live performance. We'll see people performing in a room and you paying to be there. And then you'll see you'll have the opportunity perhaps to watch a live stream of that gig live from your home. And maybe you'll also have the opportunity to watch it back later as a recorded live stream. And now those are three, in the past, we've only had one way of watching a gig, and that's to go through the door and see them, really, for most artists. And what this does, it opens up an opportunity for people who perhaps, I think, don't want to go to gigs. There's a lot of people, I think, who went to gigs to see artists play because they had to. It's the only way they could get close to the artist. Well, live streaming, even I'm talking about in the simplest sense of like watching a stream of a performance happen. So those people who can't be bothered to go, or they're too tired, or they can't go because of childcare reasons, they can now live stream it from their sofa instead. And there's also a large group of people who had accessibility issues. They couldn't attend gigs because of, just because of disabilities, or maybe they don't like being around lots of people, or all sorts of reasons. Well, now they can go to the gigs as well. So I think actually, and again, I'm talking about live streaming in the basic way of seeing an artist perform. It's actually going to open up a bigger market. And it means that people who couldn't go to the shows before, didn't want to, can now see the shows, and they'll pay for it as well. One of the things that opens up is that it opens up the ability for an artist in one country who perhaps when they're starting out, they could only really create a buzz in their local city and maybe some cities next to it by touring a little bit. Well, now they can live stream to anywhere in the world. They can, if they spot they're getting plays, let's say they spot that they're getting plays on Spotify in South America. Well, great. They can reach out to those fans and they can say, right, we're going to do a special live stream show just for people in Brazil. And we'll do this show just for you. Sign up here, pay or don't pay, whatever. And we'll do this show for you. And so you can grow a community of fans somewhere else. And when it gets big enough, you can fly over there and play for them for real. I think it's, and that's in the very simplest form of what performance is in the modern market.
And that's, I think, another way that's a bit optimistic, because with, one of the more optimistic impacts of COVID is that you kind of have this new creative way to restructure a release plan, or restructure any kind of marketing plan. Maybe, you have a single release, now you kind of have these new ways to sort of go about it, speaking maybe from a management perspective or marketing perspective of, how you want to roll out these releases that pre-COVID, there's very much certain things you did, certain check-off points, live shows be for sure. Now it's from having managed a few artists during this time, it's definitely been interesting to see the way you have to kind of restructure it. But things like live stream, I think, actually pave a lot of new opportunities for artists to reach fans they were not reaching before.
For sure. And it completely changes your release, your marketing strategy, your release strategy, your entire strategy, because now you don't have to, it's no secret if you talk to artists, they used to say to me all the time, I hate Instagram. I have to use it because it's where all the people are, but I hate using Instagram and I just force myself to post. Well, you don't have to do that anymore. I mean, you could choose to only communicate with your audience through some sort of live streaming, for instance. The great thing with, you mentioned Twitch earlier, the great thing with Twitch is it can be spontaneous. You just hop on, you perform, you can say, right, every Tuesday and Friday, I'm going to perform for half an hour, and you tell me what songs you want to hear and I'll play them, or whatever. That could be your main communication channel with your fans, and your fans will love it because it's intimate, it's two-way, it's spontaneous, it feels different. And that's a very different type of performance. Artists in the past, if they wanted to perform, they would go and drive somewhere, put all their stuff on the stage, tune up, play 10 songs, say thank you very much, and walk off to the merchandise store, right, to sell merch. Well, they don't have to do that anymore. They can do that, but they can also do spontaneous things on Twitch where they're playing acoustic songs or something like that, or they can do something in virtual reality or whatever. There's so many more ways of doing it. And I think artists and their teams can afford to be so much more creative because they don't have to do the things they don't want. They can say, right, what do you as an artist want to do? And you can go and do it on a live stream of any type you want. And in fact, what it means is that it's fundamentally changing what performance is. Your performance as an artist now is not just playing your songs. It could be going on to Twitch and playing video games and chatting to your fans. It's nothing to do with music, but it's about you, the artist, interacting with your community in some way.
So I've done that Logic. I don't know. He's a pretty big rapper, and he retired and he had retired, but he was maybe 31. He was like, I'm making a Twitch account. This is my new, and everyone was excited, so it's interesting. And it's, there's an interesting, I was at a previous booking agency I was doing some work for a brief time, there was a discussion about, you know, we think about Twitches with gaming, and there's not necessarily service that necessarily specific to music, live music streaming. And that seems, I wonder if there's going to be a service that meets that demand that sort of has that.
I mean, yes, the answer is yes, and they're already launching. There's a bunch. There's one I talk about a lot, which is called Sessions. Sessions Live, which was founded by Tim Vestergren, who was the founder of Pandora, and he's now founded this new service, which is basically Twitch for musicians, but for live performance. So it's really focused around actual musical performance. But if you go on, I mean, it's a really amazing experience actually, in sort of opening your eyes as to what it could be. If you go to Sessions, I think it's sessions.live or something like that, and you go to Sessions Live, and you can just, it tells you who's live right now, like on Twitch, and you pick one, and you see someone in a different time zone probably playing, because wherever it's night, there's someone playing, right? Because they're playing in the evening after work. And so you've got these people, every time I log in, it's someone in the Philippines, and all these bands like playing, and they've got a fan community. And, you know, like on Twitch, you buy whatever their equivalent Twitch bits is to tip the artists as they're playing, and they chat and they ask questions, and you have a leaderboard of super fans. I mean, it's really, really ideal. It's in the chat there, sessionslive.com. There it is. Thank you. And that's just one of them. I think another one, what's it called? Mansion House, something like that, which is sort of the same thing, but it's a bit more geared towards selling tickets for live streams. But then this kind of Twitch version is sort of coming to fruition, and I think there'll be a bunch of them. And I think I can imagine a future, for instance, Amazon Music. So if you happen to be an Amazon Music subscriber and you have the app, well, within the app they've integrated Twitch. So you can, if your favorite artist also has a Twitch account, they can send you a notification to say, okay, now I am live on Twitch, and you press the button, you see it within the app. So I can see this happening in the future, where you have streaming apps, and they will have sort of spontaneous live stream stuff in there as well.
It's you know, just hearing it all, it's really crazy to just see how much this COVID has really brought about change within the industry. And as we said, some of it was much needed, and certainly there was an awareness amongst people that we needed it, but sometimes you need that extra push. For example, you know, there are positive impacts, things like accessibility to a wider audience, I think is awesome. You know, with things like conferences, you know, the ways that information and access things becoming more accessible. With the live sector, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, how do you see it coming back? Because it certainly will come back. I think there's, you know, certain hope with that. And how do you see that looking? Because at this point, I'm not sure there's much of a plan there's different ideas about how it's going to come back.
I mean, I think it's hard to say. I mean, it will come back. It's when is the really hard question, because it requires sort of coordination across countries, because there's no point having venues open in one country if another country isn't vaccinated enough and people can visit, and you know, you've got all these problems. I know that they've run experiments, where there was one in Barcelona recently, I think, where or Valencia, and they had a concert for 5,000 people, and everybody when they arrived got tested. Everyone who was negative could go into the concert, and they had a concert, I think, as normal, but probably wearing masks, or maybe not wearing masks, I can't remember. So I can see a sort of step back towards that, where there's a lot more testing and maybe masks and things. But when, I don't know. I mean, I can't, it's hard to imagine, you know, with an increased focus on cleanliness and things like that, and hygiene. It's hard to imagine how Berghein's toilets are going to remain the same after COVID.
We're all learning how to be as a result of COVID. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't know, but I mean, I think people shouldn't get too excited about it happening very, very soon. I think it'll roll out in different sizes and ways. It's going to be a while. It will be gradual for sure, and I think it's the perfect time now to, as a performer. I think you really, you know, as a performer, I think you should not be waiting for live old fashion live to come back. You should be doing something else, because now is the ideal time. You could grow a fan base in another corner of the world, you know?
Yeah, it's like, because I think there's like some, something I wonder is, like you said, I see it being more as a gradual kind of comeback, and it's not everybody's going to start touring, all at once. Like, I think some people are, something I've heard at least is, people are kind of envisioning a roaring 20s of live shows if it, when it does come back, which I don't know if I quite see as a roaring 20s. This is all, of course, just opinion conversation, but like you said, gradual.
Yeah, I'm a bit suspicious of the whole roaring 20s thing as well. I think it's I think it's a coordinated marketing campaign. And as a reminder, the 20s did not end well. There was a massive financial collapse which led to the Second World War. So, I don't know if that's a good comparison to I mean, I think, yeah. I mean, I think, the key is that we will not be going back to what it was before. We just won't. There's no way. It's clear. You've said it, and you're right that so much has changed, partly because of coronavirus. It's pushed people to look into other ways of finding income. I mean, let's talk about that in terms of what an artist can do now. Again, all this technology was around before, but now it's not just the artists are incentivized to look at these technologies and platforms, and fans have a different understanding of the relationship of how they support an artist. In the past, we never thought about it. We paid $9.99 a month to Spotify, and we consume all the music, and we never thought about how much money goes to artists, or a lot of people didn't. How much money goes to artists, or are artists struggling? And you'd hear that, no, it's difficult, you're making money from streaming, but then they're touring and it doesn't matter. Well, touring went away, and all of a sudden it's clear that a lot of artists are not happy with the money they're making from streaming. So then fans now are aware that actually, to be a fan, paying Spotify €10 a month is not enough. And waiting to buy tickets to see their gig when they pass through your city once a year is not enough. If you really care about the artist, you sort of, it's not there's an obligation to pay them more money and support them more, but you kind of want to do something to support them. But then in return, it's only fair to expect something back. And so what we're seeing, I think, is artists are looking for ways to generate new money. And okay, one way they're doing that is through various forms of, let's call it a live stream, whether it's, gaming and chatting, whether it's performing acoustically, or whether it's doing something in VR or AR or whatever, in a metaverse, performing in Roblox or something. And that's one thing. But then there's so many other options now that they've probably never considered in the past. You can, and I think the artists should do this. They should, for example, start a Patreon, or and have a sort of small group of support around you. So your core super fans. We've always talked about this, or I've usually talked about this idea of getting that first 10 really, really good fans, and then getting 100, and then getting 200, then getting 400. Those are the super fans who really, really, really care. You've got other fans outside of that who'll drift in and drift out. But if you can get 10 initially, your starting period in your career, 10 super fans to subscribe to your Patreon, which, for those of you who don't know, if you haven't used Patreon, is like a platform where you get people to sign up. They pay you so much money per month, like €3, or you have different tiers. You've got a €3 tier, €5 tier, €10 tier, €25 tier, and in return you give them things. You give them, for instance, you can share music with them before you upload it to a streaming platform, so they get it first. You can share exclusive remixes with them, or acoustic versions, or a diary from it in the studio, or videos of you in the studio, or anything that is extra. So your music is available on Spotify, fine, you can get it there. But if you want more, if you really care about the artist and you want to connect with them, and you want to have access to their WhatsApp group, you pay a little bit of money per month, like a fan club, and you get more for your money, and you support the artist in return. Now, this isn't new. The Beatles had a fan club, and they would do the same thing. They'd record a Christmas song for them every year and send it out to the fans. But this is almost a no-brainer. Like, why would you not do this? But artists are now in the past, they could sort of ignore it. But now they need to look at it, and it makes loads of sense. It's easy to do. And if it's a way that you like working and you feel like, oh, you know what, I produce all this stuff and I've got nowhere to share it with, and I just sort of upload it and it goes away, well, make money from it and upsell it to your biggest fans. And that's just one way. I mean, there's like being a performer now, being an artist now is not about simply writing songs and then going and singing them. It's like that's the starting point. I mean, it doesn't mean that people have to do more. It doesn't make it more stressful. It means you just don't have to do the things you don't want to do, and only do the things you do want to do. And you will find your audience there, and you will find a platform that helps you make money doing it.
And like, it was interesting. Something that I just thought about thinking about these live streams is that from some of the ones I've attended, like, or, bought tickets for, it's interesting to see how, like, it impacts the budget of an artist, but seeing how extensive some of these live streams are and how they need to be, because now they're meant to replace the experience of a show. So now they're more elaborate, they cost more, and that's got to be an interesting kind of budget thing for artists, if that's something they're considering, because, if it's being shown, you want quality and people have a certain, I think a lot of,
exactly. And it's really about, and again, this is a positive thing, a liberating thing. If you are Dua Lipa, right? If you're a huge international pop star, that when she did her live stream, which was incredibly successful, it was high budget live stream. It was incredibly high budget. It was like a TV show, but it had to be because her fans expect that. Okay. But if you're not Dua Lipa, and it doesn't have to, you don't have to be a smaller artist, but when you're a big pop star, people expect big pop budgets. But if you're not Dua Lipa, and if you're starting out, or if you've got a small audience, then they expect smaller, intimate, lo-fi events where they can throw a question to you in between songs, and you can talk back to them. That's what they want. That's what, like, it's really what they want. And that can work with any type of artist. But the key in this new sort of post-coronavirus industry is you really, really need to know who your fans are, and what they kind of want from you. And you have to know as well what you like doing and how you like expressing yourself as an artist, and what your performance is. And again, that performance can be anything. Like, you can have a podcast. There's great podcasts. Jessie Ware, the British artist, has a great podcast about cooking, I think. Is it cooking or something like that? And it's like, she's sort of, is that podcast successful because she's a musician with the podcast, or is it, like, it doesn't matter. Like, she's finding new fans everywhere. Fans of her music will also like a podcast. Fans of a podcast will come and find her music. It's all performance in a way that she enjoys. And that's what I strongly recommend everyone starts doing. It's obviously more difficult when you're starting out, because when you're starting out, you don't have the audience yet. That first phase is about growth, but you've got to do it, because, like, you may as well find where that audience is now and start, because as you grow, they will grow with you.
And it's like the idea of growth. And also an interesting thing I thought was this idea of, particularly with live streaming, I think it falls a lot in with people's brand and, kind of the image they want to, and as much as, doing live streaming, as much as fans are, super fans are paying for access to music, they're paying for access to the artist. And I think we see that especially with the idea of interaction with, getting these exclusive live streams, or, maybe getting to talk with the artist one-on-one. It's like you're paying for the access as much as you are the music.
This is absolutely true. And this is where we can start thinking about it in terms of new income streams. Okay, so streaming, like recorded music income, isn't going away. In fact, recorded music income has gone up since coronavirus, because of course it has, because people are listening to more music, so there's more income coming in. Recorded live performance, the old-fashioned way with tickets, is going to come back and will make an income again. And merchandise can happen actually without live gigs, we're finding, and people will still buy merchandise, but you have to market it differently. You have to sort of drop, I'm going to use air quotes because I hate that term, but you can drop like a short run of merch, and people will snap it up. And this is where it all starts to fit together with this third stream of income. So if your third stream of income is finding ways to get fans to pay for access to you, the artist, but not the music, right? So we're talking about paying for connections with you. So if you have a Patreon where people subscribe for like €5 a month, and in that They get exclusive free stuff that you post only to them, but they also get exclusive access to a drop of merchandise. And only those people in that group can apply to buy the merchandise. Now that means you're just giving these people what they want, opportunities to engage with you as an artist, and that's just a really simple way. Private. There's who was it? I think it was the band Hertz, and there was a few examples of artists making WhatsApp groups for different countries. So there's like a France WhatsApp group and a German WhatsApp group for their fans. And WhatsApp groups can only have a maximum of, I think, about 250 people in them, right? Which is, if you're a small artist, it's fine. So you could create a WhatsApp group and say, right, this is for super fans only. You can join this group. And if you join it, you get to hear all the music before everybody else. You get to buy tickets for everybody else. You get to buy merch for everybody else. I will chat with you. You can ask me anything. I will be here. Now, some artists won't enjoy doing that, so they shouldn't do it. But if you're comfortable doing that, the people who are huge fans of you will love to do that. And part of the reason they love to do it is they get a direct connection with you, and they're like, oh my God, you answered my question. But really importantly, they get to do sort of social peacocking, and they get to show off in front of other fans. Like, look how big a fan I am. People love that. That's why people wear and I can never really understand it, but people go to gigs wearing a t-shirt with the logo of the band they're going to see at the gig. It's like, I know you're a fan, you're here, right? You've paid. But they like to show that they are a real fan, and people love that stuff.
Yeah, thinking about that is, I think it actually was, maybe some extra class or something with you. I don't know if it was AC/DC or something who was selling, or maybe it was Kiss selling, like sold a coffin as a part of their merchandise to really show your commitment. I was like, wow, that's next level commitment.
Yeah, it's not confirmed yet if Prince Philip is having one of those. We all wait to see. Yeah,
I'm waiting for that.
Yeah, we'll find out.
But it's like an interesting thing, kind of. You're talking about one thing you mentioned was recorded music, going up regards to income streams. Have you found that with kind of like your analysis knowledge and things that with COVID, there's been a getting richer situation. So there seems to be a trend in some other fields, but I've wondered if that's sort of the case with the recorded music.
So the short answer is yes, and the long answer is also sort of yes, but no. Like the thing is with streaming is that the entire system is built so that all the money comes in, and then it's divided by percentage share. So if if $100 million comes in, and you as an artist, your songs account for 0.001% of all the songs played on Spotify, you will receive 0.001% of that 100 million euros that comes in. And so in coronavirus time, what the recent IFPI report, which is has all this information in, it shows that actually there's more money coming in from streaming than ever before. Now, and that's because more people are signing up to streaming services than ever before. Now, whether that's because of coronavirus or not, it's difficult to tell. I think they would have seen this growth anyway. But by definition, the more people that sign up, the more money that goes into the system, the more that technically should come out and go to artists. However, the smaller artists are not saying that. And that again isn't a conspiracy. It's just the way it works. Like you don't really feel a big lift in your income. If you get 1 million streams on Spotify, and all the money comes to you, and you're not sharing it with a label, you're probably looking at between 4,000 and 5,000 euros a month. If you get $1 million streams in a month across all your songs, that's not bad actually. It's not a terrible amount of money. But realistically, in the music industry, you have to divide that money and share it with people. So actually, when it comes down to it, on an individual basis, people are not seeing that. So by definition, these successful artists, the rich will get richer. The labels that they are connected to will make more money. And all the way down in the thin end of the long tail, those artists won't see much difference. And unless streaming platforms drastically change how they divide money up, that isn't going to change. Because even if, I think at the moment there's something like 430 million people in the world who use paid streaming accounts. That doesn't mean there's 440 million paid streaming accounts, because you can have family plans and things like that. And, you know, but it means a lot of people are using paid for accounts. And even if that number doubles, I don't think it means that the people at the bottom of the pile are going to see double the revenue coming to them. I think it's a lot more complicated than that. And I think that's why, you know, we haven't really spoken about this topic very much until coronavirus happened. And so a lot of artists had this sort of mindset of, well, I don't make much money from streaming, but it doesn't matter because I make a lot of money from touring. And all of a sudden that stops. And so all of a sudden then they go, shit, like, I don't actually make that much money per month from streaming. If this isn't an incentive to go and find new income streams, I don't know what is really. Because if you want, one thing that artists always say to me is they want control. Not many students have been say, you know what, I want to go and try and get a major record label deal and be a pop star, and they can control everything. Some of them do, but not many. Most of them say, this is my art, I want to control it, I want to control the direction. In which case they have to start now, in my opinion, building the foundations to think about where the money's coming from. Because if you just rely on streaming and gigging, like, you can see what happens. Something changes and half of it goes away.
It's especially, I think, for like I guess it's an important reminder too for artists to make sure they know where their income streams are coming from. Because I think there's, you know, that, and some of that's just knowledge and doing the research. Because, you know, it's I think with there being that lack of live shows, it's really made artists, you know, really educate themselves on where are their other income streams coming from, which maybe was more ignored before because you have the live income, so there was standard pressure. But I think now there's been a lot more focus in education on where income streams really come from.
For sure. And, you know, before, when it was live, that transaction is really easy to understand. You go to the venue, you stand on the stage, you sing 10 songs, you get paid because tickets have been sold, and you take a percentage of the tickets and you walk off the stage. And like, that is an easy transaction to understand. But like, actually, I think it's naive to not know where your income comes from. And yes, people are becoming a lot more aware of it. And one thing artists might be thinking is, I just don't want to deal with that. I want to focus on being an artist, which might involve, you know, joining in on a WhatsApp group or sharing things on a Patreon or OnlyFans account or whatever. Like, I understand that. So in which case, artists perhaps need to think about quickly, earlier in their career, collaborating with someone who is a manager or who is a business partner or something, because you can see now that this other side of the business, which is going to generate quite a lot of their income, is going to be like important, but it's complicated and multifaceted. You know, Patreon is a really good example of a way, and there's lots of, I keep using Patreon, there's lots of other platforms that will do this. There's a really good platform called Ampled, which is based in New York and it's the same thing. You subscribe for €3 a month to your favorite artist and they do exclusive stuff for you. And, you know, this is a really good example because if you think about it, if you see people who do this, they have different tiers. You like the lowest tier is just pay me €3 a month and I'll give you like a small something bonus. And then it goes all the way up to maybe 25 or higher for the bigger fans. And people will pay this. And if you look across this, you know, if you get 100 people signing up to support you on this and they're paying you a monthly supporting fee, let's say half of them pay €3 a month. Well, that's 150 euros a month right there. And then the other ones are probably going to voluntarily choose to pay more. So you could, off 100 people, easily bring in, I don't know, between 500 and 1,000 euros a month. And if that means you can pay your rent just by existing, then why would you not do that? You have to give something in return, but that's what you're doing anyway. So I can't understand why people wouldn't start to try and find these things out. It's what the fans want.
It's amazing about transparency, which I feel like COVID in some ways has provided a greater sense of transparency to certain things, or maybe not just because it's been required now that maybe wasn't as transparent before, whether it's just greater effort on people researching and educating themselves on certain things. But I also think there's just greater transparency. And there's one question in the chat, just because we got our on the 10-minute mark. Oh, I like this one. Was Clubhouse a fad? Thank you, August. Was Clubhouse a fad, or will it expand its relevance in the future? I remember Clubhouse. Whoa, man.
Clubhouse is a hot topic, and if you may have used it. I think it's only available to iPhone users at the moment, but it's basically like a sort of audio drop-in thing. So you can start a group, and you can start essentially like an audio only room, and people can join the room, and you can have like a bit like this. You could have like a panel of people discussing a topic. So you could say, okay, let's I've seen things on there like they have daily meditation sessions or yoga sessions, and like you get different people doing it, or you get people talking. There's a lot of people talking about Bitcoin, like talking about how much money they're going to make, or NFTs or something like that. But there's groups based around it. But if you look at the actual app at the moment, it's got they rotate an image of a user on the actual app button. And at the moment, I can't remember the name of the artist, but it's someone who's a musician, and every day or every other day, he opens a room on Clubhouse, and people join in, and he performs and chats to them, and it's a sort of social audio thing. Now, anyway, is it a fad? I mean, yes, in a sense that whenever anything new comes out, it gets hyped, and the hype is, and everyone rushes to join it, and then maybe they just don't care anymore. But this is normal for anything, and also it's driven as well a little bit. Like there's a lot of people who are at home, they can't do anything, they can't see anybody, they perhaps don't live with anybody, and they're on their own, and they want to communicate with the world, and it's provided this great service for them to hang out and chat. And I think so for those people, it's been really good. Will it continue in the future? I think it will. And I think that these kind of audio drop-in sessions, essentially, the easiest way to think about them is a live podcast where the audience can ask questions and join in, like a phone-in radio show. And I'm positive that it will be an element of an ongoing, this ecosystem of direct connection with artists and fans, because Spotify has just paid a lot of money to buy an app that's very, very similar to Clubhouse, and they're going to probably incorporate it into Spotify soon. And think about that. You could have live radio shows on Spotify by your favorite artist, who is the DJ, who is talking in between songs that they're picking and playing over this service on Spotify. And you can press a button and jump in and say, hey, I'm your biggest fan, would you play me a song? Or ask a question or whatever. Like, people want that. And so, yeah, I think that is here to stay in a sense. I don't think it's going to be a huge, it's not going to be TikTok big, but it's definitely going to be big because people want it. And this, again, is actually an example of a really important thing that artists should be thinking about. One thing I'm always telling people is collect email addresses, collect phone numbers. They have real value, right? Like if you collect them at every gig you do, you can put a dollar value on each of them. They're worth money because you can communicate directly with the fans without having to go through a marketing company or a label or Spotify or something else. And all of these platforms that I'm sort of talking about, like Patreon or Sessions, or a lot of them will give you direct access to those people. They will tell you what their email addresses are, and they will tell you what their phone numbers are. So you can create WhatsApp groups, you can create email lists. Owning that data is more valuable now, even more valuable now than it was 12 months ago, because you being able to connect directly with your fans is what means that they will then pay you directly in return for whatever it is that you ask them to pay for. And that's really important.
Somebody, Flavia asked, where wasn't a Clubhouse where you can only enter with invitation? I think so, right? Like it was
yes,
like
that's right. I have some invites if anyone wants to.
I mean that's a nice, I guess, it adds the idea of the exclusivity, and if that's people enjoy that to some extent. So I think that's some of a good business.
I mean, I'm a bit cynical about it because like so many people do that thing where it's like, oh, you have to have invites, but it is good. And it's a good example of how fandom works. You know, like people want to be able to say, oh, well, I'm a member of, like, look at Taylor Swift's fans. They live to support her. They love Taylor Swift. They're desperate to support her career, right? But they're not doing it privately. They're only doing it online where everybody else, the other Taylor Swift fans, can see how much they're supporting Taylor Swift, right? Like, that's what it's about. It's like they will go and they will set up multiple accounts on iTunes to buy her latest single. I mean, no one downloads singles in 2021, but her fans, her big fans will do it because they want to buy as many versions of the single as possible to get the song to the top of the charts, so they can say, hey, we helped get her song to the top of the charts. And they'll buy it in multiple accounts, and they'll post screenshots when they've bought it to show the world that they bought 5 copies of Taylor Swift's new song. Now, by definition, they're crying out. They're desperate to spend money on their favorite artist and tell people about it. And buying singles is the stupidest way to do it. Like, who cares? So it's definitely, you can see that, like, and by the way, like, I'm talking about Taylor Swift, but even the smallest artist starting out has super fans. Like, it might be your mum to start with, right? But quite quickly, and she'll subscribe, but quite quickly, you will gain other super fans. And initially it'll be people and then suddenly you'll say, oh, I don't know that. You'll see someone sign up and you don't know who it is. And you'll go, oh, wait, okay, something's happening. And you're connecting, you can see it, and you can connect back to them and say, hey, thank you so much for subscribing. Here's an exclusive remix I've done, or something, like whatever. Like people are desperate to do it. They want to show off and say, hey, I'm part of this artist's fan club because I'm a super fan. And I'm not a bronze member, I'm not a silver member, I'm a gold member. And I pay 20 euros a month.
Yeah, and the development of of course we don't have time for it today, but the development of the super fan, and particularly as it's grown, I think in COVID, is fascinating.
That's a whole different topic, yeah.
Yeah, that is. Which unfortunately, so we're reaching the end of this 4:30. So if there are any final questions or final closing remarks, now is the time.
Yeah, I'm here for questions. But again, let me reiterate then. I think it's the best time, whether you're an artist or a manager or whatever, but it's really important to figure out where you or your artist lives online, because that's where the fans will be as well. And then you have to find ways of asking fans for money, right? Which a lot of artists hate, but fans are very, very okay with this idea now. They want to do it. And if you say to them, if you give me this much money, I'll do this for you in return, they'll do it. And they want to do it. And if you're playing a live stream on Twitch or somewhere, say, hey, if you're enjoying it, throw me some Twitch bits, to tip me. Like you have to do it now. Like and no one's ashamed of it. In the past it was selling out. Now no one's ashamed of it, and people want to do it.
Now it's a part of the trends, man. It's interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
That's it.
Unfortunately, a bit of an abrupt ending, I think, but I think we got to close off. Got 5 minutes for the next speaker. So thank you so much, Joe. Your wisdom is always much appreciated. I'm enthused.
Thank you for asking me. It's been good to be here.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, Joe. Y'all take it easy now, all right?
Thanks. Goodbye, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Joe. All right, guys. So we don't have much time to the next speaker. So have a quick smoke, have a coffee, and we'll be back shortly.